Typically Argentina A100, a long time prior, it was one of the wealthiest places on the planet, and a nation so financially effective and progressed that it was broadly anticipated to end up in financial equal of the joined-together states. But at that point something went off base and Argentina begun a long financial destruction that has been getting more regrettable and worse ever since its past 100, a long time, maybe a story of 9 liquidations, hyperinflation, and consistent financial emergency, and nowadays Argentina is coming near to the edge of a financial collapse once more. But how does a nation go from a financial monster to a chuckling halt? Why is it stuck in an endless emergency? And can it ever get out? This is often Argentina's drop from music grace, whereas typically now mostly overlooked. 100, a long time back, Argentina was a genuine financial powerhouse at its peak. Within the late 1920s, it was one of the quickest developing economies within the world. For 5 straight decades it had a GDP per capita on a comparative level as France or Canada, and it was one of the most worldwide goals for speculations and movement. And it was too broadly seen as the another financial superpower that found the mystery to an unstable development, which will be competing for dominance over the landmass. With the joined-together states, the establishment of its victory was in agribusiness, much obliged to having one of the foremost ripe locales on the planet, the Pampas. Argentina was able to turn itself into a worldwide breadbasket. And at a time when the world was hungry for commodities and paying a tall cost for them, Argentina was cheerful to supply, and while commodities were streaming out, individuals were streaming in its journey for financial advancement. Argentina chosen to turn itself into the foremost pro-immigration nation within the world, and so it opened its borders to literally everybody, and indeed advertised to pay individuals for their travel to the nation. As a result, it had its booming economy, business-friendly arrangements, and higher compensation than most of Europe. This come about into the extraordinary European movement wave to Argentina, when millions of Europeans from Italy, Spain, Portugal, and other nations chosen to begin their unused lives within the unused world. From 1870 to 1914, Argentina's populace quadrupled, and its economy profited from laborers, agriculturists, and businessmen that were arriving within the nation. Buenos Aires was nicknamed as Paris of South America for being the continent's social capital, and Argentina got to be celebrated as sort of incomparable to the joined-together states, a booming economy open to migrants and full of opportunity, where anybody seemed make a fortune and construct a modern life for themselves. Within the early 20th century, the build-up around Argentina's victory was at its top. It was the put, where things were happening, where on the off chance that you contributed, it was incomprehensible to not make a benefit, and where an unused financial mammoth and was fair being born along with a vital geographic location and endless assets counting common gas, gold, and oil. The Argentinian dream was in a full swing, and the longer term looked shinning. But that shinning future never came. Argentina never got to be the financial superpower that it was gathered to turn into, and instead, it's an economy that's continually falling apart and battling for uncovered survival. So what went off base? Well, the clarification is that Argentina, or maybe its pioneers, have a history of making awful choices that have brought the country from the exceptionally beat all the way down to the shake foot. So this is often what happened. The truth is that the foundation of its victory was not exceptionally sound from the beginning. Like the joined-together states, Argentina had a large territory reasonable for agribusiness that it was coercively taking absent from native inhabitants and giving it to pioneers who were gathered to turn it into formidable arrive, but not at all like the U.S., where the arrive was conveyed among a large number of autonomous ranchers. The government of Argentina sold off the arrive to a little circle of as of now affluent agriculturists and ranchers. This financial first class was making a parcel of cash, but since they had no competition, they didn't feel the ought to improve or expand, and so Argentina never truly created any other divisions of the economy. When the awesome misery hit within the 1930s and worldwide requests dropped, it had nothing else to incline on, and in the interim, the world was quickly changing, and it was presently industry that was making nations rich, not agribusiness any longer. But Argentina was depending on its farming for so long that it didn't really have anything else, and it rapidly begun to drop behind. And to create things more regrettable, within the 1940s, a military overthrow gave Argentina a new leader, Juan Domingo Perón, who had a totally distinctive thought of how to settle the economy, taking motivation from both totalitarianism and communism. Piran accept that Argentina's issue is that it's as well involved in the worldwide economy, that it's sending out as well much, which it has as well much outside capital, and his solution was to form Argentina totally financially self-sufficient by successfully cutting itself off from the rest of the world. And so whereas the world economy was going through its brilliant age of the post-war financial boom driven by unprecedented globalization, Argentina was going within the exact inverse course, closing off forcing duties, limiting its send-out driving remote speculators out of the nation, and nationalizing entire segments of the economy. And indeed, in spite of the fact that Container himself was removed by another military upset within the 50s, his philosophy didn't go anyplace, which included greatly liberal welfare and social endowments for the destitute, and the center lesson, which did have its benefits beneath pawn Argentina's working lesson, had the most noteworthy pay rates within the entire of Latin America. But the corrupting economy seemed never give sufficient cash to cover for all of the welfare investing, and in arranged to pay for it, Argentina begun to borrow increasingly cash on one hand, and printing more cash on the other one, which as a result was progressively driving the swelling, cheapening the money, and developing the national obligation. And as the economy was beginning to drop separated, Argentina was going through an unending cycle of political flimsiness, and always changing administrations, governments, presidents, and financial priests, who were all, be that as it may, bumbling at taking care of the country's funds. By the early 1980s, the financial circumstance was progressively unsustainable, and to occupy consideration absent from it, the military fascism that was in control at the time propelled a lamentable intrusion of the Falkland in 1982, which before long after it fizzled, driven to the drop of the administration insolvency of the economy, and a misplaced decade of financial stagnation. The thing is that indeed, in spite of the fact that Argentina's pioneers had handfuls of openings over the decades to alter the heading of the nation within the conclusion, Argentina never learns from its botches and continuously closes up doing precisely the same thing all over once more, or as a saying goes, Argentina never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity. In 1989, the final decade of Argentina's financial issues was wrapped up with a marvelous wave of hyperinflation that wiped the complete investment funds of most of the country and started riots over the nation, as individuals who couldn't bear nourishment any longer were plundering the grocery stores to halt the swelling. A modern president chosen for a modern procedure to stabilize the falling cash by connecting the Argentine peso to the rate of the US dollar, and for whereas it worked. But whereas this move stabilized the cash, it too implied that Argentina wasn't able to fair print cash to finance its own investing any longer, which was continuously one of the most ways for any Argentinian government how to support its budget. Without this plausibility, and in order for the new methodology to work, the nation presently had to gain the money rather than fair printing them, and radically decrease investing. In other words, Argentina had to halt acting like Argentina, but once more it just couldn't offer assistance and so it went on another investing spree that the economy couldn't afford, this time financed by borrowing the money from outside speculators and the IMF. But when the worldwide economy moderated down and the money dried out, Argentina stowed away the divider, and after it misplaced to advance subsidizing from the IMF, it went through the biggest government insolvency in history, and a modern arrangement of riots started by the outrage at the total fumble and inadequacy of the government. Since at that point, Argentina has had a long time of ups and downs, but at the conclusion of the day, the economy is confronting the same issues all over once more. The government still keeps investing more cash than it can manage. It's printing cash to finance its investing, and debasing the money, and driving the swelling higher and higher. As a result, nowadays the inflation is reaching over 100%, after developing for the past a long time, and the economy is once more coming near to the edge of collapse. And so Argentina is still making the same awful choices that lead to precisely the same comes about, and keep it stuck within the same interminable until the end of time emergency. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating content.